Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a beautifully sunny Carrow Road. Lunchtime kickoff, which I think nearly caught you out, Paddy, didn't it? Yeah. But definitely a 12:30 kickoff today. Norwich City welcoming Watford here in obviously pursuit of their first championship home win of the campaign. We're going to bring you the team news when it drops in about a minute or times. So, Paddy, it's going to be an interesting one, isn't it? It's a tough contest, but I think more than anything, and given the tone of what Johannes was saying yesterday, it feels like a lot of emphasis very much on seeing an improvement with Norwich City's attacking play more than anything else.
Yeah, and hopefully that leads to a first league win at home for him. Come close, very close against Blackburn. Should have won that game. Sheffield United, they were good that day. Probably draw was a fair result, but the longer the home lack of a win in the league goes, the more these questions about process and the steps that he's putting in place, which I think most people are buying into. But again, like Coventry, tangible evidence. And that for me is wins now. It's wins. It's picking up points. He said again to you yesterday, he said to me previously, I think they're below par in terms of their points all in his first five. If he's referencing it in terms of a measurement of points, then there you go, mate.
Yeah, here we go. I'll bring you the team news. Norwich City line up like this. Gunning goal, Fisher, Duffy, Cordoba and Doyle. Looks to be the back four. A midfield three of Nunez, McLean and Schwartau, with Sienats and Saints either side of Josh Sargent. The subs bench for Norwich: Long, Stacey, Crisene, Hanley, Hernandez, Forson, Gordon, Forsyth and Miles. That's a few changes for Norwich City, so I'll just run you through that again. Angus Gunn in goal, Fisher, Duffy, Cordoba and Doyle as the back four. Back suspect. Nunez and Schwartau will be the midfield three, with Sienats picking up that right that slot on the right hand, Borja Sainz on the left, and Josh Sargent down the middle. The interesting bits to get in there, Paddy, but let's start with that back four. He's changed both full-backs. Cordoba's been pushed in. I guess the headline there is probably Callum Fisher in for Jack Stacey from the start.
What does that say? I mean, ultimately, we know, without getting into the tactical nuance of how he wants to build the play, it's all about almost creating a three defensively and releasing one full-back. And maybe today, he wants something a little bit different because Stacey's natural inclination is to get forward. But to my mind, the fact he's on the bench is a fitness issue, so he's not overly seeing what he wants from Jack Stacey in terms of the structural element build up. But maybe, although if he is his strongest suit is going forward, trying to think. I mean, there's been 1 or 2 glimpses this season, but you wouldn't say anything really like catching in terms of his work in the final third.
I think you pinpoint the goal conceded at Swansea as potentially his error as well. He sort of went to go long and basically, I think man McLean, but it was definitely part of that goal.
Oh, it was, yeah. But again, his natural instinct, if you go back to that fragment play, was to get forward. It wasn't to check back in, keep the shape, and then have the out on the other side. Doyle is going to play irrespective because he's already emerged as the key man in that back four. Cordoba needed to get into the side. So, I can kind of see it. But it's a big goal in terms of purely Stacey out and Fisher in, because Fisher now has an opportunity to nail down a spot. And probably now worth keeping a close eye on what actually Callum Fisher looks like in terms of an ambitious right-back offering today. If he's a bit more circumspect than Doyle is the outlet, then that to me smacks of the reason he's made these changes is more of a, maybe he wants to alter the balance. I mean, he talked a few weeks ago about he could foresee Doyle and Cordoba as 2 left-footed centre-backs. So when we were discussing that immediately would make you think he's going to invert on the right side and then the left-hand side will be the outlet. Maybe that's what we'll see today, albeit with Cordoba and Duffy. So it's interesting, yeah. Again, it cuts the heart of a head coach who isn't quite feeling that, whether individuals or collectively, they're quite delivering what he wants in a key area of his template, which is how you build through the thirds and get the ball up into the top end of the pitch. And then the other eye catcher for me is, I'd like to have seen that against Swansea, Schwartau in the 3.
Yeah, we talked about this.
Cernach the further 3, because that didn't work on the day. I asked him directly after the game why Schwartau and not Cernach, and he said Schwartau had been in the building for 2 weeks of the international period, had more chance to work with him. Okay, that's fair enough, but it didn't work on the day. Cernach is more of an attacking option in that right-hand side of the 3, cutting inside. So that looks a better balance further forward. So, yep, I'm not averse to that 11 today. Yeah, you?
Yeah, again, we for anyone who watched the podcast last week, we did have a little bit of a chat about Oscar Schwartau and maybe feeling that that role, which almost and we've seen Nunez and McLean are the deeper two, and then there's one that's a little bit freer, which has been obviously a Mankwa foursome. But I think given his form and maybe where he has been at the last couple of weeks, it probably makes sense just to dip him out. And it does feel, I think, with Oscar Schwartau's qualities, with his abilities, maybe less so last week, where a lot of his game really was with his back to goal. It didn't feel like it particularly suited the way that he wants to play and his capabilities. He feels to me like, and I remember the very first question you asked Johannes about him, and he spoke about that ability to arrive in the box late, and with the game ahead of him, that feels more suited to his capability. So a big moment for him. And then Antti Sienats gets the nod again in what has been a little, not troublesome's a bit extreme, but it's been a little bit of a difficult position for Norwich City. No one really yet hammering down that right-hand side. Probably with Shortau and with Sienats, we're probably talking about opportunities knocking for them, aren't they? Because given Mankwa Forson's performances there, and mentioned that right-hand side, there are two positions there that really could be nailed down if they can produce performances.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. And, he was good. I thought with Caden Gordon's first team starting potential right now, and he doesn't feel in his view he's quite ready. He also, mapped out on L, and there in terms of going back to Cernach and wide options, if he doesn't feel those two are ready to go for different reasons in terms of starts, then and let's be honest, I know one or two people don't really want to keep going back to the fee they paid because that's not down to Antti Cernach, but that comes with an expectancy. And okay, yeah, he needs time to adapt, and he's a young man, and there's the off the pitch element as well to this move, but that outlay tells you that the people who matter at Norwich who've made these decisions think he's got something about him. And why not get him in now and just play him, run a games, let him get comfortable in the Championship and in this Norwich team, and then let's see what you can do. So for me, that should be the way it moves forward now, that forward three. And then it is, as you rightly say, Connor, I think Forson, post Stevenage, has really put his stamp on it. Yeah, we know the injury issue at Palace. That might set him back a little bit. Pretty wasted international break going away with Ghana and not kicking a ball. Could have been better here, I think, adapting and acclimatising, a bit like Schwartau. So if you're Schwartau today, you're probably thinking, particularly with no Slimani, and that didn't sound overly positive to me yesterday, the fact he hadn't trained all week, and not a huge surprise he's not involved today. I don't think we'll see him this side of the next international break, if I'm honest. So if that is the case, maybe there's two potential today in Derby for Oscar to really put his mark on it. And as you just said there in that last segment, because he's a player who likes the game in front of him, if you can get that discipline from McLean, maybe defensively, could it release him to go forward and be that late arriving attacking option into the box to supplement the three ahead of them?
Yeah, which could in turn improve their attacking play as well. If he can be that link, that conduit between some of their deeper spells of possession to maybe getting the ball to positions and players that they would like in some of those dangerous positions, Borja Sainz, Sargent, etc. Let's bring you the Watford team. I think we're in a position to do that. This is how they line up. They've got Bachmann in goal, Pollock, Seriolta and Morris as their back three. Andrews, Musa Sissoko, Deli Bashiri and Ken Sema as a midfield four. Vata on the right, that lad on the left with Jebison up top. And their subs, I'm not even going to attempt it. There you go. So he's on the left. Yeah, he was stretching off last week, wasn't he? But that was precautionary. So he's come back. Their substitutes, Bond, Porteous, Tom Ince, who was linked with Norwich last summer. Imran Luza, Vakumbeo, Angelo Ogbonna, Kawado Bar, Festi Obasele and Iyasa Larouchi. So that is how Tom Cleverley's team line up this afternoon. They've, of course, won 3 of their opening 5 championship games, although both of those games that they haven't won have come in their last 2 outings. It was interesting, I said this to Johannes yesterday and he agreed. I think when you think of Watford, particularly over the years, and these 2 teams have played each other a lot, and Watford have got the better of Norwich 8 out of the last 10 occasions. You think about a Watford team and you think about what Norwich have struggled against Watford. It's been the physicality, the athleticism. I remember when they had Ismail Assar and on one flank, and I can't remember who they had on the other, Ken Sema, Yasser Espria caused some problems last year. But you think of pace and athleticism and real strong, physicality. And it was kind of interesting what he said about how Norwich need to combat that today. Yeah,
I know it's a different cycle now, but the Vicarage Road game last season, which we remember, that was the one Norwich were 1-0 up, 2-0 up, and then 2-0. Contrived to. But Dean Smith, as it was then, he had to make. He felt he needed to make a change in the centre park at half time. If you remember, it was the lesser spotted Isaac Hayden who came on for a rare appearance, and Liam Gibbs got the hook that night. And his reasoning after the game was, they were getting overpowered, which cuts to the heart of how this particular jewel has gone in recent seasons in Championship football circles. Not seeing really anything of Cleverley's Watford, really. I mean, they played my lads the other day and they were one down and they stuck in and they came back. So, obviously, if they've won 3 of the first 5, then, that's a good base from which to kick on. I mean, the vibe around Cleverley with the Watford fans you speak to or journalists seems to be quite positive. So, they are a club in the same mould as Norwich, who've been in and around the Premier League more so than Norwich probably in recent times, and will expect to be there challenging the end. So the expectancy that's around Johannes and this group of players, it will be likewise there for Watford. So not an easy task today. And you just go down at 11, and some of those players are hangovers from Premier League football. So they've got a little bit about them, I think. So, I think this could be a difficult afternoon today for Norwich.
Yeah, I agree. And again, just to go back on that point about, and he was asked directly, do you feel without Anis Ben Soleimani, who's not involved today, that there is enough physicality, particularly in that midfield three, McLean, Nunez, Schwartau? And his answer was effectively that Norwich need to avoid getting drawn into a sort of arm wrestle with Watford, and that comes through control, through keeping possession, and ultimately through quality on the ball, which was something that they really lacked at Swansea last week. Yeah,
I thought that was an interesting answer, really, because he didn't go into it. He said if that doesn't work, we will have a plan B to pull in. Well, I'd like to know if
that's the back three again,
Maybe that could be the answer, because
you've got Stacey to come on, haven't you? Hernandez maybe on.
Maybe. But if your plan A, which is trying to control the ball with quick, incisive passing and almost negate that physical aspect that Watford might want to put onto the game, particularly in the middle of the pitch, that doesn't work. I'm not sure just changing around 1 or 2 players, maybe even the system, necessarily gets you that. So, again, it does come back to when Slimani was on the pitch against Coventry, they had that physicality, him and McLean particularly. I mean, you just look at them, they look like they can handle anything that could be thrown at them in that regard in terms of Championship combat. You throw Nunez in there. Schwartz's a big lad, but he's a young lad. He's 18. He hasn't filled out yet, has he? So I don't think he necessarily...
He's a drifter, isn't he?
He doesn't have the physicality. He's not going to put his foot in and, tip a few players up. So I think Forson's got more of that about him, but, he's got himself a little bit lost in these games. He hasn't really been able to stamp his influence on it like he did at Oxford, like he did against Stevenage, albeit lower level opposition. But that has to be a concern. And maybe today, hopefully not, but maybe after today, we're talking again about that. Well, yeah, we can see what they're trying to do midfield-wise. We can see the technical ability and the demand for quick, incisive passing. But what if you get run over by teams in terms of the physicality, and then you haven't got anything to counteract it with? So, again, really interesting thing to look out for me today is if what would come with that approach, how do Norwich counteract it? Because if they do it today, sets them up well for the rest of the Championship season, because they're probably going to get that more often than not, that type of, a little bit like going back to last week, Luke Williams said you let Norwich get into a rhythm at the start, you let them get into that passing rhythm, you're chasing the ball, it's very hard. We need to get up and out, and we need that aggressive intensity. And as we know, that ultimately decided that game last week. So if opposition teams are looking at Johannes Norwich team and how to counteract it, and that's what they're coming up with, he needs to be one step ahead, him and Glenn and his coaching team.
Yes, agreed. Which on that point, obviously a couple of changes around that today with Narcis Palash, who was defeated in his first game as Stoke head coach. Paul Clements obviously gone, and Harrison Glue, one of the analysts behind the scene, has departed as well. It's going to be Declan Rudd as interim goalkeeper coach, and Joe Scholberg, who is the academy manager at Norwich City, stepping up as well this afternoon. And we got the sense that maybe they'll be in a position next week with a clear week to Derby to maybe get a couple of people in the door and in the building before then. But just on Declan Rudd's pad, I mean, it doesn't seem 5 minutes ago he was a young goalkeeper coming through here, let alone to be in a position where he's now an interim goalkeeper coach. But you know what this club means to him, and it will be a big day for him, won't it? Which is a sort of a nicer side away from the game, I appreciate. But he is somebody I think that is sort of warmly regarded around here.
Oh, huge. I mean, the previous sporting director wanted as soon as I think it was Preston, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He hung up his boots where he was very good for. You speak to anybody at the Preston end, and he was an excellent Championship goalkeeper for them under Alex Neil's reign when they were in and around the playoffs more often than not. But as soon as he came back to Norfolk and you have that calibre of person as well as goalkeeper, you get him in. You get him into this football club. And I think since then he's obviously progressed through and to this point where you listened to Johannes yesterday and it didn't feel like that it was almost a seamless transition. He's been in and around the first team group. And Gunny will know all about Declan Rudd. He won't need to be told. And I'm sure that'll give him a nice little boost as well. That somebody in that lineage of Norwich City goalkeepers from not all that long ago when Gunny was coming through. I know he went off to Man City in his mid-teens, but he was probably watching Declan Rudd. So that's a nice little link there as well. It's almost passing the baton on. So, but from what Giannis was intimating, they are going to go outside. So maybe they feel it's a little bit too early for Declan, but there's no doubt, seasons to come, Declan Rudd is probably going to be quite a key figure in terms of Norwich and goalkeepers, because who better than somebody who's a product of that academy pathway, who went on and had a very good career at championship level, and wants to come back now and give something back as a coach. It's a great story.
Yeah, only 33 as well. I thought he was slightly older than that, but there we go. Paddy, how's it going to go today? What are you feeling?
Not really give it huge amount of thought, but the record is diabolical, isn't it? So Tony, 2 of the last 10, they've actually got something from.
Correct,
so
which was the Sargent flick, if you remember that one, and of course the game here in February, which is the last one, where it was Boogate, wasn't it, with the substitutions for David Wagner and Norwich. Obviously, I think they were 2-0 up in that game, squandered a 2-goal lead, and then went on to win the game. And maybe it was a little bit of bloodletting in the end, but those are the only instances in the last 10 that they've won.
I mean, I'll never try and get drawn in too much to the records, unless it's Fulham away.
And here's another one for you. Oh, yeah. So Norwich's record at the moment, 20 unbeaten at home. So it's the best record since the 85-86 season. Do you know the team that ended that record?
Probably Watford, was it?
Watford, yeah.
Well, now you've told me that. Having just said I disregard records, then the karma is so the negative energy you've created now, Connor. I thought draw, really. But if Watford came and sneaked it, then I wouldn't be overly surprised. But, a draw isn't kind of what we want, but hopefully, Josh Sargent has his shooting boots on, and Bora our science has got them on the right way today, and they get the win, and the sun is shining, and we can all have a good weekend.
Yeah. No, I've feeling a bit more confident than you, I think. Actually, my fear with that Norwich team is maybe that there's not a lot of pace in it. And the pace, Stacey Hernandez, we're looking at from the bench. But, I think Norwich are going to win this game. And I think they're going to edge it 2-1, I'm going to go. So, but to be honest, I could see it being tight either direction. You can see all 3 results here today, I think, between these sides. So, let's hope that Norwich City edge it. Of course, Pinkham.com, the place to go. Be on the live blog. We'll bring you all the analysis, reaction as well after the game. And, let's hope the sunshine is a good omen for Norwich City today. And we're talking about a Norwich City win later this afternoon. Thank you very much for watching. See you soon.